balanced of power. Sometimes it leans toward the man, sometimes toward the woman. But here's a truth that most men overlook. She needs you more than you need her. Why? Because at the foundation of female psychology, there's a deep yearning for stability, for guidance, and for the presence of a man who refuses to be consumed by desperation. Men, when you place a woman at the center of your world, when you orbit around her as if she's the sun and you are merely a planet, you surrender your power. You abandon your individuality, your discipline, your mission. And that, ironically, is when she begins to lose interest. Jordan Peterson often reminds us that order and chaos live side by side. The man represents order. The woman represents chaos. If you give up your order, if you collapse into her world without boundaries, she cannot trust you. And trust is the very oxygen of attraction. In this video, we're going to explore the deeper truths about power in relationships, and why the man who needs her less always holds the advantage. So listen closely. These are not games. This is not about manipulation. This is about reclaiming your role as a man of purpose, a man who understands that his mission comes first, and that only by living fully in his strength does he truly become attractive, respected, and desired. Part 1. Why needing less creates more power. Men often believe that by chasing harder, texting more, proving their devotion every minute, they will win her over. But in reality, neediness destroys attraction. Why? Because neediness signals weakness. It reveals to her that you lack self-control, that you are willing to abandon your mission, your values, your independence, simply to gain her approval. Jordan Peterson explains that human beings respect those who voluntarily shoulder responsibility. The man who focuses on his career, his health, his purpose, without being derailed by his emotional hunger, becomes naturally magnetic. Women crave that man because he doesn't need them to feel complete.
He is already whole.
And paradoxically, that wholeness makes her want him even more. Think of it this way. The lion does not beg for attention. He hunts, he roars, he provides. His very presence commands respect. If you become the man who has direction, who values his time, who knows where he's going, she cannot help but feel drawn into your orbit. She realizes, this is a man I cannot easily control. And that realization is intoxicating to her. The moment she notices you're not desperately seeking her validation, she begins to chase yours. She invests. She starts to question, why isn't he obsessed with me like everyone else? What makes him so grounded? That's when the power shifts. And it shifts because you chose to prioritize strength over submission, mission over desperation, and character over constant validation. Part 2. Chaos needs order. And you are the order. Peterson often speaks of the archetype of order and chaos. The woman represents chaos not in a negative sense but in the sense of possibility, change, unpredictability. The man represents order, structure, stability. When you forget this, when you abandon order to collapse into chaos, the relationship becomes imbalanced. She no longer sees you as the pillar she can lean on. When you hold your ground, when you remain calm in storms, when you refuse to be emotionally rattled by her tests, you embody order. And here's the key. Women unconsciously crave this. They test you not to destroy you, but to see if you are truly strong enough to carry both yourself and the relationship. If you fail, if you crumble, she loses respect. But if you succeed, if you hold steady, if you remind her through your actions that your identity is not dependent on her moods, her respect deepens. She may argue, she may provoke, she may withdraw affection for a moment. But beneath all of this, she is asking one question. Can I trust this man to remain strong? And when the answer is yes, her attraction multiplies. That is why she needs you more than you need her. Because without your order, her chaos has no anchor. Without your strength, her emotions lose stability. Without your mission, the relationship becomes a hollow shell. Your responsibility as a man is not to worship her, but to lead yourself so powerfully that she finds inspiration, safety, and desire in your presence. So remember, power in a relationship doesn't come from dominance, from loudness, or from games. It comes from self-mastery. It comes from discipline. It comes from living in such a way that you could walk away, not out of arrogance, but out of the quiet confidence that you are already enough. And when she sees that, she realizes she needs you more than you need her. In modern culture, we often hear that relationships must be perfectly equal. 50-50 in power, 50-50 in emotional influence, 50-50 in control. But Jordan Peterson often reminds us that life is not symmetrical, and relationships rarely are. The truth is, men and women bring different strengths, different needs, and different vulnerabilities into the bond, and pretending that everything is exactly the same between them ignores the deeper psychological realities that drive human behavior. When you, as a man, deny your role as a leader, as a stabilizer, you create confusion. You might think you are being fair or modern by giving her everything she wants, by putting her on a pedestal, by letting her dictate the flow of the relationship. But what actually happens is that she loses respect for you. Because deep down, she doesn't want equality in the sense of sameness. She wants polarity. She wants contrast. She wants to feel the pull of your masculine strength against the flow of her feminine energy. This doesn't mean domination. It doesn't mean control. It means balance. It means stepping into the responsibility of being the anchor. The one who does not lose himself when emotions rise, when conflicts emerge, when life becomes chaotic. The man who assumes that role even when it is difficult commands admiration. The man who avoids it, who expects his partner to be both the feminine energy and the stabilizing masculine order, ends up disappointing her. This is why she needs you more than you need her. Because without your willingness to lead with courage and vision, the relationship collapses into disorder. She needs your strength not because she is weak, but because the union requires balance. And that balance depends on your commitment to being a man who does not abandon himself in the name of equality, but instead embraces his role fully and without apology. Part 4. The power of walking away. One of the most powerful truths in any relationship is this: the man who can walk away holds the leverage. This doesn't mean threatening to leave or using departure as a weapon. It means living in such a way that your sense of self is not chained to whether she stays or goes. It means cultivating independence so deeply that if the relationship ended tomorrow, you would continue to grow, continue to succeed, continue to live with purpose. Jordan Peterson speaks often about the necessity of bearing responsibility for your own life. That responsibility includes being honest with yourself. Do I rely on her to feel whole? Or do I know who I am without her? If the answer is that you are nothing without her, then you have already surrendered your power. But if the answer is that you remain a man of value, a man of direction, then paradoxically, she clings to you more tightly. Why? Because women are drawn to men who do not beg for love but inspire it. They are drawn to men who could walk away but choose to stay, because they genuinely value the relationship. That choice is infinitely more powerful than dependence. Imagine two men, one who panics at the thought of losing his partner, and one who knows he could walk away and still thrive. Which man is more attractive? Which one inspires deeper respect? The second. Every time. Because women instinctively understand that a man who does not need them is a man worth needing. This is not about arrogance. It is not about playing games. It is about embodying self-respect so deeply that you never chase what should flow naturally to you. And when she senses this, when she knows you value her but do not depend on her, you become irresistible. That is why the ability to walk away is the ultimate power. Part 5. Emotional strength. over emotional reactivity. One of the greatest mistakes men make is becoming reactive. She says something sharp and you explode. She withdraws affection and you panic. She tests your patience and you collapse into anger or desperation. But what women are truly searching for is a man who can remain composed under pressure. A man who can carry the emotional weight of the relationship without losing himself in the storm. Jordan Peterson emphasizes that suffering is inevitable in life. What matters is how you carry it. The man who cannot control his emotional reactions becomes a burden rather than a pillar. The man who can regulate himself, who can respond with patience, clarity, and strength, becomes the foundation upon which trust is built. When you resist reactivity, you signal power. You show her that you are not controlled by fleeting emotions, that you can remain calm when she cannot. And this calmness does something profound. It creates safety. Women cannot truly open themselves, cannot truly surrender their vulnerability, unless they feel safe. And safety is born from your emotional strength. Think about it. Anyone can be calm when life is easy. But the man who stays calm when challenged, who keeps his dignity when insulted, who maintains his composure when tested, that man is rare. And rarity is attractive. This is why she needs you more than you need her. Because without your ability to hold emotional order, her chaos overwhelms her. Without your steadiness, she feels lost. And when she realizes that you can face her storms without losing your center, her respect for you skyrockets. She understands that you are not just another man who reacts. You are a man who leads with strength. If you study the lives of men who command respect, one pattern always emerges. They put purpose before pleasure. They don't build their lives around fleeting moments of happiness, nor do they allow relationships to distract them from their mission. Instead, they understand that true fulfillment comes from responsibility, discipline, and the pursuit of something greater than themselves. Jordan Peterson often says that meaning is found not in comfort, but in responsibility. If your entire sense of identity comes from being with her, then you have no mission. And when you have no mission, you become lost in her emotions. Lost in the relationship, lost in yourself. She may like your attention for a while, but eventually she will see through it. She will see that you have abandoned the very thing that makes you a man, your drive to build, to conquer, to improve. But when you live for something higher, when your career, your health, your purpose, your vision of the future come first, you become unstoppable. You are no longer at the mercy of her moods. You are no longer desperate for her validation. You are already fulfilled by the pursuit of meaning. And that makes you not just attractive but necessary. Because here is the truth. Women are drawn to men who can lead them into a better future. And if you cannot lead yourself, you cannot lead her. If you cannot discipline yourself, you cannot inspire her. If you cannot put your mission before temporary pleasure, you cannot hold her respect. So remember, she needs you more than you need her. Not because you are superior, but because you are the one called to create order, to pursue meaning, to carry responsibility. And when you do that, she sees in you a man worth following, a man worth loving, a man worth staying with. Part 7. The man who chooses strength over need. At the heart of everything we've discussed lies one timeless truth. Strength is more attractive than need. The man who gives in to desperation loses his dignity, loses his power, and eventually loses her. The man who chooses strength, strength of character, strength of discipline, strength of purpose, creates an energy that no woman can ignore. Jordan Peterson emphasizes that life is suffering, but within that suffering lies the chance to build resilience. If you choose resilience, you become unbreakable. If you choose desperation, you become disposable. And relationships are no different. Women respect men who are resilient, who can face rejection without collapsing, who can endure challenges without abandoning their principles. Ask yourself, Do you want to be the man who is easily controlled by emotion, or the man who controls himself? Do you want to be the man who begs for affection, or the man whose very presence inspires affection? Do you want to be the man who clings out of fear, or the man who stands tall out of strength? The answer determines not just your relationship, but your life. Because women deep down don't want a man who needs them to survive. They want a man who thrives without them but chooses them anyway. That choice, not desperation, not need, is where true power lies ending. So here's the truth that too many men ignore. She needs you more than you need her. Not because she is weak, not because you are perfect, but because the very structure of relationships is built on polarity. She is chaos. You are order. She is possibility. You are stability. She brings beauty and emotion. You bring strength and direction. Together that creates harmony. But if you abandon your role, if you surrender your mission, your strength, your independence, then the balance collapses, and with it, the relationship. Jordan Peterson teaches us that the highest good is found in responsibility. Your responsibility as a man is to master yourself, to lead, to protect, to inspire, to live with purpose. When you do this, you never have to beg for love. You never have to chase endlessly. You never have to sell your dignity for attention. You become the man she respects, the man she admires, the man she cannot afford to lose. So take this to heart. Stop needing her more than she needs you. Stop collapsing into desperation. Stand firm. Live with mission. Embrace responsibility. Because when you do, you will discover the deepest secret of attraction and power. That in the end, the strongest relationships are not built on need, but on choice. And the man who chooses strength over weakness, purpose over pleasure, and meaning over comfort, that man will always be desired, always be respected, and always be free.